Next one is health insurance. Now, this first slide, we're going to look at just some of the definitions and keywords for health insurance. And some of these apply to other insurances as well, but they're kind of specific to health insurance. But the first one is deductible. It's basically how much you have to pay before the insurance pays. Okay, we'll look at an example in a minute. A copay is how much you have to pay for each doctor visit. Okay, and some of them will have a prescription cost because, like, for example, shopping for medicine for my daughter, one pill was going to cost about $100, and then we got on a different kind of insurance, and it was $4 for the package of like 30. So now the insurance company is absorbing that, is taking on some of that costs, but what does that prescription cost? So there may be limits to how much you pay for prescriptions. It also may depend on the type of medicine as well. Okay, lots of depends in all of this. Network is a big word. This is actually true for most insurances. So some insurance can only be used at certain brands of doctor. So in San Diego, Scripps Health Network is one network. Well, Scripps actually is divided into multiple branches depending on what insurance you have. So it can be even internal to that. There's certain networks that you can belong to. Kaiser is another one. I'm trying to think another one off the top of my head, and I can't. But basically, if you're going to get the benefits of your insurance to the maximum that you can, you want to go to that place. It's not to say that other doctors or other places won't take it, but generally there's an out-of-network cost that's extra and above if you went to the place that you're supposed to. And that all is in the fine print, and you got to make sure you know what you're signing up for when you get that insurance. And sometimes you have a choice, and sometimes you need the insurance and you don't have a choice, and you got to go with what you got. Okay, next one, health savings account. Okay, so this can be complicated. It depends on what you have, because there's actually an FSA, which is something that I'm familiar with a little bit more. But a health savings account is basically a type of insurance that works more like a savings account. So every month, part of your paycheck goes into an account, and then it accumulates. And then when you go to the doctor, they take it out of that specific account to go to the doctor. An FSA is more of an employer contributed version of that, but there's a use or lose part of that where they put in, say, for example, $100 a year. Not very much. So it's basically one doctor visit, depending on where you go. But for example, they put in $100 a year. If you don't use it, you lose it. But if you use it, there's nothing left, then you have to pay out of your pocket. Okay, health savings account, you put money in and it stays in there. The next year you can keep adding. And so that, something happens big, well, then you can draw down on that account, but you're not having to worry about, oh, I just put in $1,000 and I'm going to lose it all. Okay. So really make sure that if you sign up for one of these, you know all the ins and outs and how that works. Okay. The next word is pre-existing conditions. So you can't help being who you are, but if an insurance company takes you on and you have a medical condition already, they are taking a risk that you're going to go to the doctor because you already have a condition that's going to take you to the doctor. Some insurance companies won't take you on as a client if you have a pre-existing condition. Many companies will add an extra fee or something so that, oh, we'll take you, but you have to pay extra because you already have this condition. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's look at a couple of examples, and just these are totally made up numbers. You should actually go to your insurance and ask, but this is just so we can talk about it. So for example, let's say you have 3 different options for insurance you could buy. So you can have a deductible of $1,000, which means, you know what, I'm pretty healthy. I'm not going to go to the doctor very often. If I'm in a bad accident, I can cover up to $1,000 because I got a good savings account. If it gets over 1,000, I need help. So insurance pay for that. When you have a large deductible, that means you're going to pay a lot before the insurance pays. Okay. So if the deductible is $100, that pretty much means you pay up to $100. Then after that, the insurance pays everything else. Okay. Now, a copay means every time I go to the doctor, I'm going to pay $10 or I'm going to pay $40. Okay. Now, the higher these amounts, the lower you have to pay every month. But when you got to go to the doctor, you got to take care of stuff yourself. That makes sense. So you're paying less every month, but when you go to the doctor, you're going to have to pay more when you go. Okay. So if you pay more every month for your insurance, you can have lower deductible, a lower copay, and when you actually go to the doctor, you wind up paying less. Okay, so that's kind of what this is trying to say. So I'm paying less a month because I'm actually pretty young and pretty healthy. I'm not going to go to the doctor very often, but just in case, I'm going to have it to take care of myself if I really need it. That's great, because then guess what? You can use the rest of that money to invest, to do other things. However, there's something to be said, especially if you have a family, to pay that higher amount and make sure everybody's taken care of. Now, generally, you can think about this is for an individual. If you add other people onto your insurance, you can very easily see double or triple those amounts by adding people to your insurance. Okay. Now, let's talk about a health savings account very briefly. Just keep in mind, these are kind of made up numbers and it really depends on what's going on. Usually, and it depends, there's not a deductible with a health savings account. You're going to either pull from the account or you're not. If that makes sense. Okay. And there's exceptions because there are some HSAs that are kind of like some of the other insurances where they do have a deductible and they do have it's weird. They do have a copay. So, but usually there's an agreed upon what your balance target is. Basically, you're going to put in so much every month, okay, and it's going to roll over. There may or may not be protection on your prescriptions, okay. Generally there is, but once again, it depends on what company you're going with and all kinds of things. Network HSAs can be tied to a network as well, so it really depends. One of the gotchas with this is even though you've got $500 sitting in that HSA, you can't just pull it out to go get a car repair. This is only for medical bills. So that's one of the gotchas with this, is you're putting money aside that you may or may not use. Okay, but it is more like a savings account. All right. So in all of this, there's lots of depends. It depends on your personal situation. You should really make sure you're talking to an expert. Go talk to an insurance agent, go talk to them. Be aware, yes, they want you to get something from them, but they also want you to know what you're getting into. So also don't be afraid. If you don't know, ask a question. You can never ask too many questions because it is your life, it is your insurance. And the more you know, the easier it is for the insurance agent and the insurance company as well. So, okay. Where can I get some health insurance? So usually the first place most people get it is they go to their employer. You get your job, you've got your interview. The first few things you're doing is you're signing paperwork. And one of the things you can sign up for is benefits. Now, if it's hourly work, generally you don't get to sign up for benefits like health insurance until a trial period is over, like 6 months to a year. And then you're eligible for some of those benefits. Once again, depends on the business, but this is where most people start their search for health, life, dental, other kinds of insurance. Oh yeah, and that's the thing too. When we talk about general health insurance, that does not cover the eyes or the teeth. So vision and dental are usually separate insurances, but they work just like the health insurance generally. Okay, the other one is Covered California. You can go to the state marketplace and they can hook you up with all kinds of different things. You would have to go there and do that. I'm not very familiar with how all that works. You can go Google health insurance and find it. That will probably, top link will be Covered California. And second link will probably be some well-known brands of health insurance like Blue Cross. What's another one? I can't think of it. There's going to be tons of different insurances out there available to you. Okay. when you're considering buying, you got to think about how often do you go to the doctor? Do you have a medical condition where you really need the doctor? Like, you need it. What is the current law mandating or not mandating health coverage currently? The Affordable Health Care Act has kind of been sidelined where it's not mandatory, but I expect that may go back and forth a few times as political climates change. So just know what the law is. Generally, your employer will send you a tax document that states whether you have insurance or not through them, and you should hang on to that. Okay. You should also think about who is the insurance for. So like for me personally, I don't necessarily need the insurance for myself, but I do need it for my daughter. So who is the insurance for? What's it for? And then how much can you actually afford? I've been there where you can't afford much, and so you get what you can. And then when the opportunity arises and you can get better coverage and you can afford it, then you probably should consider doing that. Okay. So really keep in mind that part of this too is this is really important for health costs that you just can't save for. So like a normal doctor's visit is $80 versus or $100 versus the $10 if you had a copay. Going to the hospital is very expensive. A ride in an ambulance is $3,000 to $7,000 just to get in the ambulance and go to the emergency room. Okay. So that's what health insurance is for, because especially if you don't have an emergency fund that can handle some of that, you've got to have the health insurance for it. And so, yeah. All right. So it's all about managing risk. Okay. So the next insurance, let's talk about car insurance. Okay.